Hello and welcome to Peaky Boardgamer. My name is Explanatory and today I will show you a video of a game not easy to find, especially after the successful but not delivered Kickstarter campaign by Watch Your Game. The word is for Madeira, designed by Nuno Bizarro Santiago and Paulo Soledade. It's a game for 2 to 4 players, easily one of the 5 best games I've ever played, and the game that I had to make a video of. Let's start with a quick overview and we continue with the rules of the game. Stay tuned.
Madeira is played over a series of 5 rounds. At the beginning of every round, players will be picking 3 dice to use in the actions phase, but also a request from the Crown. These tiles will be driving the player's strategy, since they'll be scoring victory points depending on how well they did in these requests at the end of the 1st, 3rd and 5th round. There's a request for ships in markets, a request for ships in colonies, one requiring a majority in the 3 cities, another one requiring unused favor tiles, and the last one simply requiring to donate money. On their turn, players will be playing 1 die on one of the 5 characters, performing various actions. They'll be harvesting the fields to gain resources, which they will use to send their ships in markets and colonies, gain new favor tiles, manipulate their workers in the cities and gain bonuses, but also to pay their maintenance costs at the end of the round, avoiding to gain pirate tokens, which could lead to losing victory points at the end of the game. After final scoring, the player with the most victory points will win in Madeira. At first, place the board in the middle of the table. Next, create the guild board by connecting the 2 appropriate pieces according to your player count as depicted in the bottom left corner of these boards. This one's for 4 players, this one for 2, and this one is for 3 player count, which is gonna be the player count in our video. Connect the 2 pieces and place the other 2 back in the box. On the guild board you'll be placing the Crown request tiles. On the back illustration you will find player count symbols, but there are also 4 tiles that only depict crowns. These are starting tiles and set them aside for now. From the remaining tiles you will only use the tiles that depict a player count that is equal or lower than your player count. So in our 3 players example, the 4 player count tokens are removed from the game. As you can see, the guild board will depict rows equal to your player count, now 3. Each one of these rows must contain 5 tokens. After you shuffle the applicable tokens, randomly fill the board with tiles facing upwards. Next, create supplies with the resources of the game. You have coins, wine, sugar and wheat, which are the 3 goods of the game, and then you also have wood and bread. Also create a supply of pirate tokens and then place the 4 character tiles as well as the dice of the game next to the board. You will always need the 3 black dice and 3 green dice per player in the game, so in our example I will need 9. Favor tokens will be placed in the cities area. There are 3 cities, each one having a row of spaces meant for workers. After you shuffle the favor tokens, place them from right to left until every city has 4 tokens. Favor tokens are double-sided and they must be placed using the unexhausted side facing upwards. Then take the 3 neutral citizens and place one of them on the rightmost worker space of each city. Then take the 8 King's Rewards tiles. There are 4 A's and 4 B's. Take 3 random A tiles and place them in the 3 corresponding colony spaces, and then do the same with the B tiles. The tiles are placed facing upwards and the 2 remaining tiles are returned to the box. In the market and colony areas, some of the spaces might not be applicable to your player count. This symbol means that the space is only used in a 4 players game. This symbol means that the space is only applicable in a 2 players game. And this space is applicable in a 3 or a 4 players game. For your convenience, use ships of an unused color to block these spaces. Here you see blocked spaces for our 3 players game. The map is split in 3 regions and every region is split to multiple fields. There's also a forest field here which does not belong to any of the 3 regions. Some of the fields start with wood tokens during setup. The amount of wood tokens depends on the number of players. With 4 players you place the amount shown in the top, with 3 players the amount shown in the middle, and with 2 players the amount shown in the bottom. So in our 3 players example, in that field I would have to place 3 wood tokens right on top of the field square. Then you do the same in all applicable fields. Each player then selects one of the colors and takes all wooden components of the selected color, and then from the supply they take 5 coins, a good of its type, 4 bread and 1 wood. Then you take the 4 starting crown request tokens and randomly deal 1 to each player. The player who takes the tile with the most crowns in its pack will be the first player, and that will be indicated with one of the player's circular markers placed on the top space of the guild board. The rest of the player turn order is determined clockwise. Now, the first player takes another 2 coins from the supply, the second one receives another 3 coins, the third one another 4 coins, and if there were a 4th player, they would receive another 5 coins. Starting crown request tokens that were not dealt are removed from the game. Players place another marker in space 0 of the scoring track, and their last marker on space 3 of the windmill area. Then, all players place 2 of their workers in the city watch area. Now, all players will place 1 of their workers in the city area, and this will be done in reverse player turn order. So first will go the red player, then the yellow player, and finally the blue player. Workers must be placed in unoccupied city spaces. Players can choose the same or different cities. As a last step, each player will place 2 workers in fields of the board. Again, this will be done in reverse player turn order. During setup, these 2 workers must be placed in different fields of different regions vacant of any other worker. Fields used by one player cannot be used by other players, but again, these are rules that only apply during setup. The game is now ready to start.
If you're still watching this video and like this kind of content, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done already and hit that bell button so you get notified of all our future videos. I would be deeply grateful if you did, as this is the only way for this channel to grow.
The game is played in 5 rounds. Each round in the game consists of the following phases. The first phase is the round setup. Then we have the character actions phase, which is the main phase of the round. Then we have the building actions phase, the maintenance phase, and finally the crowns requests phase. Let's explain each phase in detail, starting with the round setup. As you can see on the board, there are 5 building locations where you will be placing 4 character tiles. On every building you can see a number in the top right corner which associates to the 5 rounds of the game. On every round you shuffle the 4 character tiles and randomly distribute them to the 5 buildings, leaving empty the building that associates to the current round. And this is why the first round building Fortaleza gets no character in the first round. Then roll the 3 pirate dice and place them in the city watch area. Then take the guild dice and roll 3 dice for every row on the guild board. Then, following normal player turn order, each player selects a set of dice and then places their disc onto that row. After that, the player must also choose one of the available tiles from the selected row. As you can see, every row in the guild board associates with specific types of favor tokens. In the first round, players will have no favor tokens. However, at this point, players can refresh all of their exhausted favor tokens which associate to the selected row. After all players have made the choice, you move to the character actions phase, with this being the player turn order now. In the actions phase, players alternate turns according to player turn order. On their turn, players must either place a die or pass. Passing excludes the player from the entire phase. When you do take a turn, primarily you will have to play a die to a building and perform one action depicted on the character tile. As secondary actions, Players may use their unexhausted favor tokens if applicable, or perform free actions in the windmill area. For now, let's leave secondary stuff aside. So, you must use a die, and this die must either be one of your guild dice or one pirate die if there is one available in the City Watch. You then place the selected die in one of the 5 buildings, taking into account that all buildings can accommodate at max a number of dice equal to the number of players. Also, only one of these dice can be a black pirate die. In our case, our buildings can hold up to 3 guild dice or 2 guild dice and 1 pirate die. In addition to that, the dice value must be equal or greater than the building's region value. However, you can boost the value to meet the requirement by spending 1 bread for each point you increase. After you place the die, you execute one of the 2 action options depicted on the character. I will explain these actions in just a bit. Before that, I want to explain the difference between the guild die and the pirate die. First of all, to use a pirate die, you must have one of your workers in the City Watch in order to recall it back to your home. Your home is your personal supply outside the board. So the yellow player in our example cannot use the pirate die. The other difference is that when you use one of your guild dice, you also place one of your action markers in this space in the building. This is not optional, you must place it. This marker means that in the upcoming buildings phase, you might be able to trigger a bonus depicted in the bottom part of the building. Now it's time to explain the different actions on character tiles. First, make note that all characters have 2 action options and one of them is always to harvest. So after you place the die, you either harvest or do a special other action. So let's start with harvest. When you harvest, all fields in the building's region where you have your workers are activated and you gain 1 good depicted in that field. If the good is covered by wood tiles, then you gain 1 of these wood tiles instead. Remember that the forest field does not belong to any region, so it is never activated when you harvest. The printed character on the building that did not get a character tile this round has only 1 action, and this is to harvest with a bonus. When you use this specific harvest, one of the fields is activated twice and gives you another good or wood. In this example, if I reactivate this field, I will now get the good since there is no wood anymore. With a steward action, a player may move up to 2 workers to fields in any of the 3 regions as well as into the forest field. These 2 workers can be moved from your home area or from anywhere on the board except from the City Watch. You can now move into fields that have opponents' workers. The only limitation is that you cannot have more than 1 of your workers in the same field. With a Guild Master action, the player buys 1 of the available Guild Favor tokens on the board. Any tile can be chosen. The player pays the wood cost depicted above the tile's column and places the tile in their home area with the unexhausted side facing upwards. We will talk more about favor tokens in a bit. Now it's time to clear one of the trickiest parts in the game. This is paying and getting wood. Whenever you must spend wood, like in our case here, this wood must be paid from your personal supply. If you are unable to pay the full cost, you first spend all your stock and then you can buy all the remaining wood by spending money as seen in this table. However, to do this, you must also have access to the wood you are buying. Wood tiles in all fields that contain your workers can be accessed. In our example, to get this guild favor, I need to spend 4 wood. I only have 1 wood in my personal supply, so I need to buy the remaining 3 wood. There are only 2 wood tiles in fields with my workers, so unfortunately I am unable to buy this specific favor. But if a player had a worker in the forest field, then that player would have unlimited access to wood. In such a case, I would have access to the 3 required wood, so I pay the cost, which is 6 coins, and then I choose where the tiles will actually come from. I can take them from my fields and or the general supply, since I have access to the forest field, in any combination. I will choose to take 1 from this field and 2 from the supply, and together with the 1 I have in my home supply, all wood is discarded back to the supply. You never buy wood to add it to your home supply. It is the opposite whenever you are getting wood from any effect, like the effect of this favor token I just bought. If I used this tile, I would be getting 2 wood. This time the wood will come to your home supply, but again you must have access to the amount you are getting. In our example, since I have unlimited access to wood, I could get both wood from the supply or 1 from the supply and 1 from my field. Of course, you never pay to get wood that you gain from a bonus. If, however, I did not have this worker in the forest field, I would have access to only 1 wood, and that would be the maximum I could get. Back to guild favors now. These tiles offer bonuses that can only be used in the character actions phase or the buildings phase. If the power can be used in the character's action phase, then this must happen at the beginning of your turn, before you place your die or right before you pass. After resolving the effect, you flip the tile to its exhausted side. Exhausted favors cannot be used until refreshed.
All guild favor tokens are explained in this reference sheet page you will find in your game. I will not explain each one of them, but they are fairly self-explanatory and you can pause the video at this moment and check them out.
With the mayor action, the player interacts with the 3 cities. First, you can relocate up to 2 of your own and or neutral workers in the cities. You move each worker 1 at a time from any space to any other empty space in any city. When you're done, you check each city, and if you have a single worker, you get the city's bonuses. For the first city, you get 2 bread for each of your own workers and 1 bread for each neutral worker. In the second city, you get 2 coins for each of your workers and 1 coin for each neutral worker in that city. In the third city, you get 2 wood for each of your own workers and 1 wood for each neutral worker. In our example, the player gains nothing from the third city, since the player does not have at least 1 of their own workers. Finally, with the commander action, players may move up to 2 ships to empty spaces in the market and or the colony area. If ships are added to the board from your home area, then you must spend 1 wood for each ship. Remember that you can buy wood you lack if you have access to it. Ships are moved 1 at a time, so you could not swap the locations of 2 ships. When you move into a location, you must be able to pay the goods depicted above the space. If you move to a market space, you immediately gain the coin bonus depicted next to the space. If you move to a colony space, you immediately trigger one of the 2 king's rewards in the same colony. In this colony, for example, the player chooses to either gain 3 victory points or refreshes one of their exhausted favor tiles. King's rewards are pretty straightforward. You may pause the video to read them here. We're finished with the actions. Let's see actions now that are offered in the windmill. These are available during your turn and you can use them any number of times. The first one lets you spend any 2 goods, same or different, and get any 1 good from the supply. The second one lets you spend 2 wheat and raise your marker in the windmill by 1 level. If you're already at the top, you immediately gain 1 victory point. As these letters next to the actions indicate, these 2 actions can be used in phases B, C or D. The third one lets you lower your marker in the windmill by 1 level and then immediately gain either 1 bread or gain 3 coins. If you're already in the lowest level, you can still do it, but you lose 1 victory point and gain 1 bread or only 1 coin. This third action can be used in phases B and C, but not in phase D. The importance of the level of your windmill marker will be understood in the maintenance phase. If you're unable to play a die or you don't want to, then you must pass. When you pass, you move your initiative marker to one of the vacant spaces on the left side of the guild board and gain a bonus. 2 coins, 3 coins or 1 victory point, and you also move 1 worker into an empty city space. And again, this worker is moved from anywhere except them from the city watch. 4 coins or move a worker into the city watch. The worker is moved from anywhere. As this illustration indicates, whenever you add a worker in the city watch, you discard 3 of your pirates. We will talk about pirates in a bit. The last bonus is either gain 5 coins or move 1 ship in the same way you move ships with a commander action. After all players pass, you move to the buildings phase. In the buildings phase, all 5 buildings are activated in specific order as indicated by the number depicted in the top left corner. So the order is the one I show you here in the graphics. When a building is activated, all players that have at least one of their player markers there will probably have to pay a cost in coins and then might gain a building bonus. If they cannot pay the cost or do not want to, they gain pirates and forfeit the building's bonus. If a building has no player markers, you skip it and move to the next one. If there is even 1 marker, then the first thing you do is roll all dice placed on the building and then calculate the coin cost. This cost depends on the number of players. In our 3 players example, it is equal to 9 coins minus the total rolled value in the guild dice only. After determining the cost, all players with markers in player turn order take a turn. On their turn, players start by playing any applicable guild favors if they wish so. Then they decide if they will pay the cost or not. Remember, players may use the windmill action that could grant them money. If the cost is not paid, then the player takes 1 pirate plus the value of the rolled pirate die. If no pirate die was there to be rolled, player gets only 1 pirate. Then player takes back their markers from the building and you proceed with the next player's turn. If the player pays the cost, then the player takes back all the placed markers and performs the building bonus once, regardless how many markers they have into that building. All buildings give a minor bonus if you have 1 or 2 workers in the region of the building, but it gets augmented if you have 3 or more workers in that region. If you don't have workers, then unfortunately you cannot get the bonus, thus paying the cost will only save you the pirates you would gain. Let's explain the building bonuses. The first building is Moinho. The bonus there is 2 bread or 5 bread if you have 3 or more workers. Next is Capitania. The bonus there is 1 victory point and you move 1 worker from anywhere except on the city watch in any empty city spot. The augmented bonus is 3 victory points and move 2 workers into empty city spots. Next we have Alfandega. The bonus there is that you can move 1 worker from anywhere except the city watch to any colony and gain 1 point for every ship you have in that colony. If you have 3 or more workers in the region, then you can place up to 2 workers in different or the same colony and gain victory points as normal for each worker you place. In Casa de Coroa, you get to flip 1 of your exhausted guild favors to the unexhausted side or 2 tiles if you get the augmented bonus. Finally, in Fortaleza, you move 1 of your workers from anywhere into the city watch or 2 workers if you get the better bonus. Remember, you discard 3 pirates for every worker you place in the city watch. After all buildings are resolved, you proceed to the maintenance phase. In the maintenance phase, you resolve the following steps in order. First step is Honor. The player with the most workers in the city watch gains 4 victory points, but must recall 1 of these workers back to their home. If players tie or the player does not wish to recall a worker, no player gains the bonus. Second step is Income. Here, each player gains the bonus depicted in the top left corner of each colony for each of their workers there. In our example, the yellow player gains 2 sugar and 1 wine. Third step is Upkeep. Here, every player must pay 1 wood for each ship they have on the board. Players can buy the wood as normal if they have access to it, thus this step should be performed in player turn order. For each wood players cannot or do not wish to pay, they get 1 pirate. Final step is Feeding. Here every player must feed their workers 1 bread for each worker on the board, including workers in the city watch. Important! The level of your marker in the windmill indicates the number of your workers that are automatically fed. So in our example, the red player has 7 workers and their windmill marker on 3. So the player must spend another 4 bread. Yellow player has 6 workers and windmill level on 7, so all workers are automatically fed, but the player doesn't get the excess bread into their home. For each bread players cannot or do not wish to spend, they gain 1 pirate. Players keep the number of pirates they have secret from other players. In the Crown's request phase, an event is resolved. This event is depicted in the top right corner of the building that did not receive a character tile in the current round. The event of the first, third and fifth rounds is to score your Crown request tiles. In specific, the first round will find you having 2 of these tiles. You will have to choose one of them to score and then discard it. The other one will be kept for later. On the third round you will have 3 tiles and you must choose 2 of them to score. On the fifth round you will have 3 tiles and you have to score all of them. We will come back to this important scoring in just a bit. The event of the second round is that wheat fields depicting this symbol are converted to sugar fields, but only if the field is empty of wood tokens. If there is any wood, these fields will never be converted. In the fourth round, the same thing will happen to sugar fields that have this symbol, in which case all of these fields will be converted to wine fields if they are free of wood. Scoring of Crown request tiles is the most important scoring in the game, so it's worth to explain the 5 different tiles. When you score Wealth of the Nation, you may spend up to 15 coins and gain equal amount of victory points. When you score Urbanization, you choose one of the 3 cities and check if you have the majority in workers, also competing against the neutral white workers. If there is a tie, it is broken by the tied player who has the rightmost placed worker. If the player wins majority, they gain the high victory point value depicted next to the city, otherwise the player will gain the lower value. Only the player who scores the tile can score points. Other players score nothing for having a majority. Important! If you score multiple such tiles in the same scoring round, you must choose different cities for each tile. With Influence of the Guild, you score 5 points for up to 4 guild favors in your possession. However, the tiles must be unexhausted at that moment, and the tiles you score must be of different colors. Again, if you score multiple Influence of the Guild tiles, you must score different favors and not the ones that were scored with the other tile. With market routes, you score up to 3 of your ships in the market area. The scoring of each ship depends on the scoring round. If, for example, it is the third round scoring and red player scored a market routes tile, they could choose 3 of these ships and score 14 victory points. Again, if you score multiple such scoring tiles, you must select up to 3 other ships of yours. Finally, Expeditions works exactly the same, scoring up to 3 of your ships in the colonies area this time. Again, victory points gained depend on the scoring round. After the end of the 5th round, there is final scoring. Players first convert all remaining goods, bread and wood into coins at a 1-to-1 ratio. Then players score 1 victory point for every 5 remaining coins. Finally, players reveal their pirates and gain victory point penalty. The player with the most pirates loses 16 points. The next player loses 8 points, the next one 4, and the last player only 2 victory points. If the players tie, then the tie breaks according to the final player turn order in favor of the player who is higher. Players with no pirates lose no points, and you lose an additional point for every pirate more than 20. The player with the most victory points wins the game. If there is a tie, then the tie breaks based on the final player turn order in favor of the tied player who is higher.
And that were the rules of the Great Madeira. If you like our videos and want to see more, please subscribe to our channel. Until next time, have fun and play more board games.